Hey everyone, welcome back to a series on mathematics behind machine learning and deep learning. Today we are diving into something that might seem simple at first glance but has profound applications in various ML algorithms, which is converting vectors to diagonal matrices. You might be thinking like that sounds too basic, right? But trust me, understanding diagonal matrices and their relationships with vectors is crucial for grasping more complex topics like eigen decomposition, covariance matrices, regularization, which is very important, right, in machine learning. Instead of just showing you the quick NumPy function, and that will actually end the video in just 2 minutes, we are going to explore the mathematical foundations, implementation details, real-world applications, the again most important part. If some of you are just for that part, please feel free to skip to that part. And by the end of this video, you will have a deep intuition and even practical understanding of why diagonal matrices matter in ML. So the problem that I'm solving is from this collections inside there is this linear algebra section. I don't know, yeah, so this linear algebra section, I already solved these two questions. Now let's just solve this one here. Okay, the question is as simple as it can get. Write a Python function to convert a 1D NumPy array into a diagonal matrix. The function should take a 1D NumPy array matrix X and return a 2D NumPy array representing the diagonal matrices. Now before we go into this, let's first understand the diagonal matrix. Okay, so let me just go through the drawing board and teach you. So mathematically, a diagonal matrix is actually a square matrix where the non-diagonal elements are 0. In other words, when an element isn't on the main diagonal, that is the row index equals to column index, it's 0. So this is a simple diagonal matrix I can show you here. Let's say we have a 3 by 3 matrix. So all the elements of the principal diagonal are non-zero and rest of all the entries are 0. Right, so this is what you call a diagonal matrix. Right, so the diagonal elements are 5, 8 and 7 here. Right, so more formally, if I want to specify it, it will be dij equals to 0 if I not equals to j and dij equals to di for all I. Okay, what is this di? This di is this part, right? So this this is a vector here. So notice how simple yet powerful the structure is. We can completely represent the entire matrix with just a single vector, right? This part. You can represent the entire matrix with just a single vector. Now, why this matters? Firstly, for computational efficiency. Like they require, if you see, much less memory. You can just store this n elements instead of all the n square entries. It also helps in eigen decompositions. In many ML algorithms, what we usually do is we decompose the complex matrices into simpler forms. And if one of the simpler matrices is a diagonal matrix, it plays a crucial role there. In covariance matrices, right, when features are uncorrelated, what happens is the covariance matrix become the diagonal. So covariance matrix we discussed in pretty detail in the previous video, but here I'll give you a simple explanation. Covariance matrix basically tells us how two variables change together. So if two features are uncorrelated, of course their covariance will be 0, and in the covariance matrix will only have the diagonal elements, that is the variance of each of the features represented. So covariance matrix automatically becomes a diagonal matrix, right? And then there's one more important application, scaling and transformation. So diagonal matrices provide a convenient way to scale the features independently in different dimensions. Don't worry, we'll take the examples practically in the code, so you'll get it. But yeah, let's just discuss the mathematical transformation here. So what is happening? So given a vector, so what we are trying to achieve here, that's what I'm trying to say. So given a vector v1, v2, so on, vn, the transformation that we are going to achieve here can be represented like d equals to diag of v, such that this v becomes the principal diagonal, right? So what's happening here is we are mapping each element of the vector to the specific position in the square matrix. You can see here, if this vector has n elements, what happens is we are creating a n by n matrix, right? The rule is simple. Ith element of vector becomes the I element of the matrix, that is ith row and jth column. So you can safely see here, if you have a vector here like 5, 8, 7, the first guy becomes 1, 1, the second guy becomes 2, 2, the third guy becomes 3, 3. So the rule is pretty simple. So let's just quickly implement it, because implementation is very straightforward here. Now we can implement this using Python list, or maybe we can actually use a NumPy here. So I guess they've imported NumPy for us. So let's just use NumPy here, or normal list also works. So let's just first get the length of this vector. Okay, let's get the length of this vector x, which is n equals to length of x. Let me just zoom it a little bit. Yeah. Okay. So length of vector x. Then let's initialize our diagonal matrix. Right. So initializing our matrix. So let's just call it matrix here, or more specifically diagonal matrix, and it will be let's say a 0, like n by n 0 zeros matrix. So all the entries to be zeros. So np dot zeros creates a matrix of all zeros. Here the dimension is n by n. Now set the diagonal elements. Right. That is set the vi, make it ii. Set the diagonal elements. It will be simply for I in range n, diagonal matrix of ii. So in NumPy we usually have this comma notation, ii equals to x of I, and we can in the end return this diagonal matrix. No need of this pass function here. Right, so that's that. Let me just quickly run it and see if it works. And yes, indeed it works. So let's just step through what's happening here. First we determine the size of our input vector. Then we created a square matrix. Right, we created a square matrix filled with zeros that has dimensions n into n. We then loop through each index and place the corresponding vector element on the diagonal. Right, here I'm just returning the NumPy matrix you see here, because I guess this test cases are not very robust, but you can actually return a list also, and this should work if I am not mistaken. Yeah, you see, even if I just return the list version of it, it also works. So yeah, I guess the test case is not that much robust, but it's fine. So this demonstrates a core concept, right? But NumPy has a built-in function as well. So like you can get through all of this drama and just simply return np.diag of x and your job is done, right? But ये दिखाने का starting से कोई मतलब नहीं था. We are learning here, right? So what you'll see is the output is identical, but the NumPy implementation is much more efficient, okay, for large vectors. Now let's talk about time and space complexity analysis here. Time complexity, so for both implementation, let's just go back to our original implementation. So for both implementation, the time complexity will be order of n square, because you are going through the entire matrix, okay, in the worst case. But the NumPy's implementation will use an optimized C code, so it will make it faster, right? We are delegating it to a optimized C library. Space complexity here in this case is order of n square, because we are creating a new n by n matrix, okay, and this matters in machine learning because as the dimensionality of our data increases, the computational resources required to grow quadratically. Right, will here grow here quadratically, right? So yeah, that's that about implementation. Now let's talk about some applications in machine learning, which is the most exciting part here. Okay guys, so let's start with the applications in ML then. So we'll explore some real world applications where converting vectors to diagonal matrices is essential. So first we start with feature scaling. Now in many ML algorithms we need to scale the features independently. So using a diagonal matrix allows us to apply different scaling factors to different features. Now consider this data matrix. So it has 2 samples and 3 features. So data matrix, I guess you already know, we discussed it in the previous video. Now what I want to do is I want to scale this first feature by 0.1, that is multiply all of them by 0.1. I want to scale this second feature by 1, that is keep it same, and scale the third feature by 10. Right, so what you can effectively do is you can convert this scaling factors vector into a diagonal matrix, right? A diagonal matrix, and when you multiply this scaling matrix with this x guy, like the data matrix, what you effectively get is the scaled matrix. So I'll just show you here, right? So what happens is when you multiply a matrix with a diagonal matrix of the scaling factors, what you are effectively doing is you are multiplying the first column with 1 1, you are multiplying the second column with the guy 2 2, you are multiplying the third column with the guy 3 3, right? You can convince yourself by doing the matrix multiplication, but I'll defer it when we discuss about matrix multiplication, but that's exactly what happens, right? Now let's talk about covariance matrices now. So what happens, I guess we already discussed, when we have a diagonal covariance matrix, what it represents is, it represents the 2 variables are uncorrelated, right? So what I exactly mean by that is, so what is a covariance matrix? So covariance matrix is simply a matrix which relates every feature with every another feature, right? So if you have n features, it will be a n cross n square matrix, where covariance of ij will actually say what happens when one feature increases to other feature, right? So if this guy is 0, when I is not equal to j and 1 when I is equal to j, what it simply says is all the features are uncorrelated, right? Uncorrelated, and this diagonal entries will be the variance, not 1, it will be, let's say, some positive value, okay, some positive guy. So that's that. Now let's just implement a simple version of a principal component analysis, because there also diagonal matrix can be used. So here you already know the first step to PCA, we already discussed in the previous video. Center the data, then find the covariance matrix. You remember this COV calculation, right? So we actually implemented this in the previous class, so where we use matrix transposition, right? So this time I'm just using the npiece function, and then the eigenvalues and eigenvectors will help us find the principal components. Specifically, eigenvectors show the direction of principal components, and eigenvalues tell us how much variance is explained by each of these principal components. And we only care about the principal components which explain the highest variance, right? So for example, I'm going to sort the eigenvalues here in descending order, and then find the top eigenvalues here. So here number of components, right? So I'm going to find the top eigenvalues, and then sometimes what you need to do is you want to see what are the variances explained by these eigenvalues. We select the top eigenvectors and then we project the data. Now this projection part, we just multiply the x center to the top eigenvectors. This again we'll revisit during matrix multiplication. But what this helps us is, let's just say we have some data point. It helps us, this eigenvalues diagonal matrix helps us see how much amount of variance is explained by each of the principal components. So first principal component explains 1.2 variance, second 1.03, and the third guy is 0.97. So moving to the last application, which is regularization, which we'll understand in context of polynomial regression. But one little thing, in this example, you might argue, why do we need the diagonal matrix of eigenvalues? You could have just returned me the eigenvalues vector. This helps because now that you have a diagonal matrix of the variances explained by these principal components, you can use this matrix to perform scaling, like scaling and transformation, like this guy. So yeah, fine. So let's talk about regularization now. So regularization helps us in constraining the coefficients of a polynomial regression to lie within a hypersphere. If this doesn't make sense to you, what it simply does is it reduces the variance at the cost of little bit bias. Simple words, it reduces overfitting. This is important because when features are highly correlated, they make the gram matrix. Now what is a gram matrix? If you remember from the previous video, it is basically x transpose into x, non-invertible. So if it is hard to invert, then you might not be able to get the closed form solution, right? And when number of features are high, that is they are equal to number of samples, what OLS does is it produces unstable coefficients. So I'll take you an example here. So if you see here, we have a polynomial regression. So what is a polynomial regression? A polynomial regression is simply an extension of simple linear regression where you have multiple features, but the features are simply some polynomial degrees of the single feature x. So x1 is x, x2 is x square, x3 so on, right? So single independent variable x is split into multiple features. So you can say a special form of multiple linear regression. Now if I try to, let's say this is a data point, if I try to fit ordinary least square method, that is your normal polynomial regression, like without regularization, what it will do is it will try to overfit, right? It will try to capture, it will try to learn the noise as well. But if I use the regression, it will of course introduce a little bit of bias, right? So it will not now match, like fit the training data completely well, but it will not overfit, right? It will introduce some bias, but it will of course improve the variance. Analogy might help here. Let's say we are adjusting the radio antenna. What ordinary least square, that is without regularization, what it tries to do is it tries to perfectly capture every single fluctuation. So it will also try to capture the noise, right? But what ridge, ridge regression does is it accepts slightly imperfect reception to reduce static noise, right? So the equation here, if you want to see for regression, looks like this, ridge regression. So this part I guess you're already familiar with. We only added this part. So what is this? This is the regularization term. So what it helps is, you can see here, I've tried to fit a linear regression and a ridge regression to a data for a regression problem here. So you see one thing here, without regression, that is the OLS method, the coefficients are ranging pretty high, like minus somewhere here minus 800 to plus 800, right? So they are pretty high. But for ridge regression, the coefficients are small, and in general, if your coefficients are small, it's good. So the proof lies in some Bayesian interpretation and all, but that's what it is. You don't need very high coefficients, right? Otherwise it will make your model unstable. So that's what helps, like ridge regression is helping us shrink the coefficient, which is actually a good thing. Now this is a closed form solution. All that changed is this alpha phi, where I is this identity matrix. So identity matrix is a special kind of a diagonal matrix with all the principal diagonal entries being 1. So how are you gonna implement this? So if you want to implement this, what you can do is first you will have to create this diagonal, right? The vector that will be representing the diagonal. So first we need this regularization vector, so that can be created np dot ones into alpha. This alpha controls the regularization, right? The more the alpha, the better the regularization. That is more penalizing the coefficients, right? So don't keep the alpha too high, otherwise it will be, the model will be very much biased, right? So you don't want that. Just the, it's a hyperparameter basically. So then we get the regularization matrix. So first find the regularization vector, then find the regularization matrix, and then I guess this is pretty straightforward. We already discussed it in the previous video. And yeah, so that's how ridge regression works. Now if we have time, we can discuss some advanced topics, but I don't think we have time. So I'll have to end the video here. But if you want these advanced topics, I'll attach a supplementary video at the end of this one, right? So to summarize, diagonal matrices are square matrices with non-zero elements only on the main diagonal. Converting a vector to diagonal matrix maps each vector element to the corresponding position of the matrix diagonal. This operation is very fundamental in many ML algorithms, from feature scaling to regularization. Python and NumPy makes this operations efficient and straightforward. Now, understanding the concepts like this diagonal matrices helps build a stronger foundation for more complex topics in ML and deep learning, such as eigen decomposition and singular value decomposition and many more. So in future videos, we'll build on this knowledge to explore eigenvalues and eigenvectors, so where diagonal matrices play a crucial role. So make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss it. If you have any questions or want to suggest topics for future videos, like, let me know in the comments below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next video, which will be about this supplementary topics that are left, which is like block diagonal matrices and sparse matrix representation. It will be a small video, but I will not discuss it here. Okay, fine. Bye.